Hello hunters, welcome back to Autobot Dawson Gaming, and today we are really excited. It is my honor to be actually speaking with the voice of Hinoa herself, the very talented Maureen Price. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you again for being on.
Yeah, sure.
So I was looking through, a lot of the different roles you've been in, a lot of great things that I recognized. Sword Art Online, Fire Emblem,
hmm
Beyblade. I just wondered, other than your role in Monster Hunter, what was some of the roles that you really liked that stood out the most to you that you had a good experience with?
Um, I would say some of the projects that I worked on that I'm the most proud of. Um, I guess yeah. So two of my favorite shows, not only to have worked on, but just to watch as a viewer, would be Cells at Work, which is streaming on Netflix, and 86, which is on Crunchyroll, and that's a sci-fi war drama. Really proud of everybody's work on both of those shows.
Wow, those sound really interesting. I'm gonna have to check those out.
Definitely recommend. One's a comedy and one's very much not a comedy, so it kind of balances out if you want to watch both.
I gotcha. So yeah, palate cleanser if you get too sad from the from the other one.
Yeah, maybe start with 86 and then follow it up with Cells at Work because that'll lift the mood.
Okay, awesome. Well, thanks for the suggestion. Um, so sort of this is related to Monster Hunter because the question is inspired by the fact that with Hinoa's character and Minoto's character being twins and basically being together in every single scene in the game, it made me think, what is actually the process when you're recording? I know I've spoken with voice actors before who said that they sort of recorded their lines for games independently. So I wonder, when you're a character that's got such a close relation to another, do you work in the same room, or is it like they just tell you a bunch of information about the other character? Like, what all did you know about who you were talking to in Monster Hunter?
So, pretty much every game, at least that I've ever worked on or that I'm aware of, unless it's a motion capture situation, everybody's going to be recording individually. So you're never with any of the other actors, again, unless it's like a mocap kind of situation.
Okay.
So also, on top of that, we recorded, or at least I recorded, for Monster Hunter. It was in 2020. I think it was summer of 2020. So at that time, we were all recording at home anyway. Everything was remote at that time.
Right.
So I recorded Monster Hunter in my closet.
Are you
Fun
serious?
fact. Yeah, I recorded everything except for the newer DLC stuff. Everything for the original game was recorded from my closet. And yeah, the only thing I really remember, because it's been a while, and I recorded the original game, not the DLC, but just the original, um, over I think 2 or 3 days in 2020. So it's been quite a while for me. Um, but yeah, so we were all recording from home. I recorded everything out of my closet. And because it was in the summer, one thing that people might not realize when you are recording from home, you have to turn off your air conditioning because when the HVAC kicks on, the mic will pick it up.
Oh.
And that's just not going to be acceptable for when the engineers need to clean up your audio and mix everything. So it was during a heat wave. So we had to, not only was I had to turn off the AC for the whole apartment, I had to shut myself in my closet as well. So no, there's no ventilation. You can't have fans running either because the mic will pick that up as well. So it was so hot.
Oh my
Very
goodness.
hot time recording that. So that's my main memory of just being in my closet and being really hot. But as far as your original question, no, Heather, who plays Minato, we do know each other actually. I like Heather a lot. But we were not together at all for the recording of this. Basically, so when you audition, you're given just enough information. For games, you don't know what the game is. You are often given the character's name will be something different. Everything will be under a code name. So you actually I had no idea I was auditioning for Monster Hunter. I had no idea what it was because it was a code name. I didn't know until I was cast that it was actually Monster Hunter. Um, so they tell you just enough about the character's personality and who they are and what their role is, sort of within the context of whatever the world may be. And that's all you know going in. And then when you book it and you come in for your first session, they'll usually, they'll give you more information, and, they'll tell you who you're talking to. But of course, with a game like Monster Hunter, we have the combination of the cutscenes and the gameplay. So with the cutscenes, obviously we were dubbing those because we had to sing and match the lip flap just like we would on anime or live action dubbing. So for that part, I did have video, so I knew what we looked like.
Okay.
So I did have the video of those cutscenes because I had to match my performance to the animation. Whereas with gameplay, it's more, you just have to match whatever amount of time you have to say that line for each particular thing, because you're not matching lip flap the way you are when you're doing like the cutscenes.
Wow.
So that was a long explanation of how that works.
No, that's great. That's a lot of really awesome insight. I mean, first of all, thanks for going, from the fans, genuinely, thanks for going through what sounds like hell in a closet to record your life.
That was everybody's life. That was everybody's life, summer of 2020. Everybody working on anything that summer was sweating for it.
I literally actually had a question on here about what it was like working during the pandemic. So I guess that mostly answers it. Was there anything else that you wanted to add about,
Oh, sure,
the struggles?
So when everything suddenly, because it really was, it was like 0 to 60. It went from everything pretty much being in studio to nothing being in studio. And for many people, myself included, that was a really difficult transition. That would have been a difficult transition had there not been a pandemic, but that on top of everything else that was happening, especially in those early days where we just really had, we didn't know what was going on, and it was a very frightening time. And so to have to go from, prior to COVID, the only things I was ever recording at home were auditions. And that was the case for most of us, especially people in LA, because we just go into studios here. So most of us, a lot of us, were not really recording sessions, like full sessions from home, where we were responsible for the audio quality. That's the studio's job. That's the engineer's job usually.
Right.
So all of a sudden that became part of our job as well. And I was not super well versed in audio and recording. I knew enough to audition successfully and get my audio, up to snuff for audition purposes. So I was doing, that was fine. I was doing okay. But all of a sudden having to be my own, full-on recording studio, for the people who already had $10, $15, $20,000 home setups, which many people do, it was great for them because they could pretty seamlessly just start working from home, and everything sounding great. But for those of us who were just recording auditions at home and not doing full-on sessions and not turning around finished product from home, it was a difficult transition. It was hard for me. I definitely struggled with that. And so people had different experiences of it. I think a lot of people were similar to me, where I didn't have a ton of expensive gear at that time because you really didn't need it. You could honestly get by on a USB mic, like a good USB mic, and a decent, space to record in that wasn't too echoey, and you had, enough foam on the walls, basically. But yeah, some people had really nice setups already, or they decided to invest in really nice setups, like $15,000 whisper rooms at home. So if you had that kind of setup, you were okay. But for people like me, it was definitely a struggle.
Yeah, I mean, not only
I'm so glad to be back in studios, because all I have to worry about when I physically go into a recording studio, all I have to worry about is just bringing my A game as an actor and just making sure I'm as prepared as possible and that I'm ready to go and I'm ready to do my best. And I don't have to think about anything else. I'm not thinking about the audio. I'm not thinking about the technical side of anything. I'm not thinking about any other noises or anything like that. I'm just focused on my job. And that's honestly how I prefer it.
Oh, yeah, exactly. I was going to say, I mean, kudos to all of you guys, because it's like not only are you having to worry about the performance now, which is already, stressful and difficult enough, on top of that, you're now putting on, you basically have to be your own audio engineer,
Yeah.
incredibly difficult. I mean, it'd be like if a band was playing a concert and they get to the venue and suddenly the venue's like, oh, you have to mix the audio yourself,
Yeah, set up all your own stuff.
yeah, exactly. So, that's absolutely crazy and awesome that so many were able to adapt. I mean, your performance comes through really well in the game. I mean, your character's a fan favorite, so job well done for sure.
Thanks. Yeah, no, I'm glad to hear that because I had no idea how anything was going to turn out in my closet, and especially with some of the more active stuff, like, when you're working on games, recording for games, depending on your character, depending on the game, depending on what you're doing, can be very physically and emotionally draining because, we have to believably sound like anything that could conceivably happen to your character in the game is happening to you, right? So if you're being impaled, if you're having, a leg chopped off, if you're on fire, if you're falling down a ravine, whatever it is, because you never know when you walk into a game session what you're going to be asked to do. Because some days, and I think a lot of people don't maybe realize when, for the most part, at least in my experience of games, when you come in, you don't get, first of all, you're not getting a script ahead of time. That's just unheard of usually, especially for games, because there's a lot of secrecy surrounding games. So sometimes the actor doesn't even know what they're working on or what the real title of the game is until it comes out. Sometimes it's extremely secretive because the game companies are trying to protect their product,
Right.
Which is understandable. So there's a lot of secrecy sometimes. But so going in, it's kind of hard to prepare because you don't have a lot of information going in. But you've always got to be prepared to do every manner of pain reaction or physical exertion or fighting sound or just any of that stuff. Because you'll come into the session and on the monitor for your script, it's literally just like an Excel spreadsheet. It's not like a script that you think of like a movie script where you can see all the other characters' lines and you know what I mean? People have seen movie scripts. You guys know what that looks like. But for games, it's a spreadsheet. And different studios will do it different ways, but you basically got a column with your lines, a column with maybe the intensity of that line, or if it's like a pain reaction, they want to hear from very, very light, maybe just somebody bumping into you on the sidewalk, to a 10, you're dying, right? And everything in between, and then give lots of variations and lots of takes and different options for those sounds. So, by a couple hours of that, you're pretty spent.
Or I guarantee it. Yeah, it sounds like, unlike a show or movie where you're just doing certain scenes of the game, it's like you're accounting for every single aspect of what could happen, which is crazy.
Yeah, every possibility of what the player could potentially choose to do has to be covered. So, you may play a game and not hear a ton of the lines we recorded just because of the choices that you made as the player. So, that's why it can take a while. But we get through it pretty quickly because it's just line, 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 line. And we'll usually either give an A and a B take or an A, B, and a C. Sometimes they want to hear 3 versions. Sometimes they just want to hear 1 or 2 versions, and they'll choose from that or give you an adjustment. But yeah, that's how we usually do it.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I don't want to take up too much of your time, so I just have one final question here for you.
Sure.
Is there any certain, video game or even beyond that, like a movie or show that you've always wanted to be a part of, or something that you're kind of hoping crosses over into your eyes one day?
Yeah. As far as a franchise is concerned, I would love to work on anything Star Wars. I don't even care what it is. I just want it to be in something that's Star Wars because I was a huge Star Wars fan growing up as a kid, way back in the day, the originals, the real originals. That was my obsession as a kid growing up because I am older. But yeah, anything Star Wars, even if it's just a droid in the background, I'd be happy to do that. Or anything Lord of the Rings, I'd be really excited to work on anything even remotely related to Lord of the Rings. That'd be really exciting too.
Definitely iconic choices. I'm literally wearing. I resonate with the Star Wars. I'm literally wearing R2D2 slippers right now, and they.
Oh, nice.
They make sounds like.
Oh, I hear it.
Yeah, that happens like every time you walk. So they're kind of obnoxious, but.
Yeah, but it's R2D2, so it's fine.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much for your time, Maureen. Again, Hinoa
sure.
is a fan favorite character of the Monster Hunter community, so truly, thank you for your work. I mean, it means a lot to a lot of people, and I know the community is going to be really excited to hear from you. So I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to come say hello.
Sure. Yeah, I'm so glad that that people love her. Because I like her. I think she's fun. She was fun to play. So, but it's funny because I don't get a ton of fan response for this game compared to some of the other stuff. So it's nice that, you know, people do love her, and that she does have a place in people's hearts. So that means a lot to me.
Absolutely. Well, for those people who are out there like overlooking the characters and just focused on the monsters, I hope that they'll watch this and get a different perspective. So,
oh yeah.
Yeah. So again, thank you so much.
You're welcome, and good luck with your channel.
Thank you.
Okay, take